Monday, May 11th, 1987. This is News 31.
The Soviet-built Illusion airplane with 172 passengers, 11 crew members, crashed in Kabeta Woods, 3 miles southeast of Warsaw Airport, 53 minutes after taking off on a regular scheduled charter flight to New York. Aware that they had only minutes to live, the crew of a Polish airliner that crashed Saturday radioed the control tower at Warsaw Okish Airport to say an emotional farewell. LOT Flight 5055 was returning to Warsaw, apparently with one of its 4 jet engines on fire, when it tore through a line of trees and exploded into a ball of fire. It was Poland's worst airplane crash and the world's worst air crash this year. All 183 people on board, ranging in age from 3 to 95, were killed. 83 people in the plane were from the United States, most from New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York. Investigators have recovered the flight's black box, and it has been handed over to a special commission set up to determine the cause of the crash. Poland declared 2 days of mourning for the victims. Our sympathy goes out to all the families and friends.
Interrogation of accused Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie is expected to get underway in Lyon, France. The 73-year-old laughed before the court and insisted his name is Klaus Altmann, an alias he took up in 1951. Barbie is accused of torturing and sending Jews and resistance fighters to their deaths while he was a Gestapo chief. And a Youngstown, Ohio newspaper has printed a series of photographs of Adolf Hitler. The photographs, believed to have been taken at Hitler's residence in the Bavarian mountains in 1933, have never been published. The newspaper obtained the photos from the roll of a 35mm film, which was found by an American tank commander from Youngstown. The photos represent a glimpse of Hitler and a group of his advisors.
Robert McFarland told the Iran-Contra hearing today that he had to make an agonizing decision. Which of 11 hostages would be freed in exchange for a shipment of arms to Iran? The former National Security Advisor says he chose William Buckley. Later, officials determined that Buckley had been killed by his captors. The Reverend Benjamin Weir was released instead. McFarland also told the congressional investigators that as the Iran story began making headlines in November, Oliver North said there would have to be a document shredding session. McFarland said he didn't relate that to Attorney General Edwin Meese, who was beginning an investigation into the affair. This week's hearings intend to find out what better happened to the money spent.
And in Sweet Home, firefighters are battling an 1,800-acre forest fire. A spokesman for the Oregon Department of Forestry says firefighters hope to contain the blaze and control it by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Fighting the fire has cost about $527,000 so far. The blaze erupted Friday in the foothills of the Cascade Range. The fire spread quickly after strong winds and record-breaking temperatures. Most of the fire burning is the second-degree growth Douglas fir. Only 2 injuries have been reported.
Signs that say yes, Justice Center mean just that in Philomath. Overcrowding, inadequate space, privacy, and no access for handicapped people are just a few reasons for the campaign. Voters will pass judgment on a $325,000 bond measure to build a new municipal building tentatively titled the Philomath Council and Justice Center on May 19th. The measure would give the city's police department and the combined city council and municipal court chambers a new home. The cost of the proposed building has been set, but not the payback plan. City councilors will have to decide whether taxpayers would pay for the building over 6, 10, or 15 years. The new building would be built onto the west side of the Philomath Fire Hall facing 10th Street.
Who says Mother's Day couldn't be special? For a Portland mother whose son has been in the hospital, it couldn't be better. Jeremy Courtier, a 21-month-old boy, who recently was admitted in Oregon Health Science University, was ready to go home yesterday. Jeremy, who became the university's heart transplant patient, was given a transplant after doctors found he had a cardiomyopathy, a degenerative disease of the heart muscle. Little Jeremy's next big test will be when doctors perform a biopsy to determine whether there are signs of the body rejecting the organ. Doctors say the recovery has been going very well.
Well, thank goodness for Jeremy's health then. And that was a fantastic Mother's Day. We'll be back with more news on News 31 after this.
Stay with us.
Transmitters, the pleasure chemicals in your brain, you can trigger them with something as simple as a kiss. Crack triggers those pleasure chemicals too. But the more you use, the more you want, and the less you feel. And almost before you know it, your brain is squeezed dry. When that happens, nothing feels good anymore.
The brainwash of crack. Now, at least you know. I always wanted to be like my father, you know, order me a dry martini.
I saw there was an image behind drinking, and people that drank, that they looked older and sophisticated. I was 11 when I lost my virginity to a guy who was 17, and I was drunk.
Drinking had taken me so far down, I had to get out of my house.
Sometimes I'd sleep in the woods. If I didn't sleep in the woods, I slept on the corner. If I didn't sleep on the corner, I slept at someone's house who I didn't even know.
I had wound up in a lot of trouble with the law. I had wound up in jail.
When I was drinking, you know, I was with a lot of guys, and a lot of guys used me.
You know, I hurt my parents dearly. You know, I knew at the time I was doing it, but I didn't care, just as long as I got high.
I was so miserable. I hated myself. Every time I looked in the mirror, I wanted to cry.
Hey, yo, alcohol is a drug, man, and you can get hooked on it. And the younger you start, the more damage you can do. Word. It's just no experience for no kids my age or anyone younger.
If you want to be somebody, have a family, have a future,
Just say no.
Say no and say yes to your life.
The Chancellor's Office of the State System of Higher Education is recommending that the State Board delay a decision on the controversial teacher education improvement proposal until next month. The proposal would have called for the elimination of the undergraduate major in education and the establishment of a graduate program leading to a master's degree in teaching association. Under the new plan, one-year accelerated graduate teacher programs would be established for students who decided to go into teaching after receiving their bachelor's degree. If the State Board approves the proposed guidelines, each institution will be required to prepare and present to the Board a plan for reorganizing its teacher education program in the accordance with the approved guidelines by October 1989. On May 19th, Oregon voters will hit the polls. A major issue will be if Measure 2, the safety net, will pass. Here is the story reported by Kathy Keanon.
On May 19th, Oregon voters will vote on a proposal designed to keep Oregon schools from closing.
Measure 2, the safety net proposal, is a change in Oregon's Constitution regarding the school system. This measure will extend temporary authority to schools which do not have enough tax bases to be open and to stay opened, according to OSU Extension economist Bruce Weber. Weber, who created the publication EM 8333, had this to say.
This measure would keep many of the school districts that would otherwise close open. I mean, it would do that. It would also, in school districts that don't have a lot of voter support, and there are a number of those in this state, it would keep those districts having to operate on the same amount of property taxes as they had last year for some indefinite period into the future.
Districts using the safety net would be required to stay open a full year and stay within the budgets allowed by the levy. The measure, Measure 2, is designed to prevent school closures in districts with inadequate tax bases. Now, inadequate tax bases are tax bases with less than about 95% of total operating levies. Rejection of the safety net proposal by the voters would mean school districts would have to operate within the 86-87 operating levy until voter approval on a higher amendment. The safety net would apply to school districts kindergarten through grade 12. If Measure 2 does not pass, that means your child might not be attending school next year.
The safety net proposal is one measure that will be appearing on the statewide ballot sheets. Be sure and go out and vote in local districts around Oregon to vote on May 19th for the safety net proposal. Your vote may make the difference. I'm Kathy Keanon reporting for News 31.
And union teachers were back in their classrooms today. Teachers last week voted to approve a tentative contract with the school district. After a 30-day walkout, the longest in Oregon school history, teachers came to an agreement of receiving a pay increase of just about short of 15%. This compares with the district's last public offer to the union 2 weeks ago at 7%. Other agreements came in areas of medical insurance benefits and early retirement. Union officials say 98% of the union members went out and stayed on strike.
The Soviet Union has begun a series of diplomatic moves in the Middle East. They appear to be aimed at restoring its influence in the region. USSR's influence has suffered since President Anwar Sadat of Egypt expelled Soviet military advisors 15 years ago. Under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, Soviet policy in the region has shifted to reach out to more moderate Arab nations and even to Israel. A major Soviet triumph was the reconciliation last month of the long quarreling Palestine Liberation Organization factions, which was largely broken by Moscow. A major factor in Moscow's recent success is an emerging, which is in the Arab would use. Oh, let me start over here. Wish in the Arab world to use the Russians as a counterweight to the United States. Thank you. And as long as I've got that off my tongue, I'll say this about Patti. She'll be up next with the weather.
What will you be able to offer an employer?
I like working with people.
I really like working with people.
I really like people.
I'm a people person.
I'm eager.
I'm eager.
Eager. I think I'm eager.
And I was president of 5...
Offer an employer something meaningful, practical work experience. A nationwide college program called Co-op Education can give you that competitive edge.
And I'd even relocate.
Right, Co-op Education. It's the experience you need for the job you want.
This little gopher knows something that could save you if you ever have a fire in your home. He knows 2 ways out. See, if you can't get out the usual way because fire is blocking your door, have another way out. Gophers have 2 ways out. You're late. And people should have 2 ways out, too. If your usual way out is blocked by fire, think, what would your second way out be?
When I was doing cocaine, I got so selfish. I wish I didn't have no one, no kids, no parents, no people who loved me. I didn't care about nothing. That's how crazy it was. I just couldn't get enough. And you know what? Cocaine's not hip, it's hype. Anyone who tells you it's okay is a liar.
Call 1-800-662-HELP.
At least I got a chance to go out and get some nice weather this weekend. I had some chance to do some things outside.
I'm glad you had a chance to do those this weekend because starting tonight or tomorrow, it's going to get really nasty outside, or at least not as good as it was the past couple of days. Sorry about that. We check our current conditions in Corvallis. As of 5 o'clock, the temperature was 75 degrees, the barometric pressure was 29.95 and falling, the winds were southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and the humidity was 35%. The weather around the nation today didn't look too bad. In the eastern coast, it was 81 up in Portland, 83 in Reno, 85 in Los Angeles. Here's that high pressure center that was causing us to have great weather the past couple of days. As you can see, it's moved more towards the northeast, and we have a frontal system off our coast, which I'll show you later on the satellite picture. It's 75 degrees in Denver, Colorado, 88 down in Dallas-Fort Worth. It was 63 degrees up in Chicago, Illinois. Now, that's the only place in the nation that had some pretty nasty weather. In the northeastern part of Illinois, they are having some thunder and hailstorm warnings up there, and the reports say that they could have hail the size of 1 inch in diameter. Now, for those of you who can't relate to 1 inch in diameter for hailstones, think of a ping pong ball. And if you still have problems relating, that's about this size, and I wouldn't want to be hit with one of those very bad. Imagine your car getting beat with golf balls and the rest of parts of you, your head. Anyway, moving more towards the east, it was 77 degrees in Hartford, Pennsylvania, and 70 degrees in Atlanta, Georgia. Now let's take a look at that satellite picture, and I'll show you the wide frontal band that we have is moving more towards the east. As you can see, it's covering a major portion of Washington and just the northwestern tip of Oregon. Astoria had a 1/4 inch of rain by 4 o'clock today, and it's still raining there. And this picture was taken earlier at about 5 o'clock, and the system has moved more towards the east, and it did bring more rain into that area and along the rest of the coast. As this system continues to move towards the east, we will be having rain probably tonight or tomorrow. I hate to tell you that, and it doesn't look good for Wednesday or Thursday either. But still today we had pretty good weather around the state. Well, if we take a look at our state weather map, it was 67 degrees up in Astoria. Like I said earlier, they did have a 1/4 inch of rain. It was in the lower 70s along the rest of the coast. In the valley, we had warmer temperatures, 81 up in Portland, 83 in Salem, 84 here in Corvallis, and 83 in Eugene. Down in Medford, they hadn't broken that record, but they did set a new record today. That record hasn't been broken since 1969, and it was 1 degree warmer today, 81 degrees. 87 up in the Dalles, 83 in Redmond, and on the East Coast in Baker, it was 86 degrees. But now for our forecast, you'll see what I mean. With the rain coming, increasing clouds tonight, rain at times on Tuesday, the western winds will be at 15 to 25 miles per hour. The freezing level is down to 8,500 feet, and by Tuesday night, that should be down to 7,500 feet. For the North Oregon coast, light rain at times, southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. The highs will be near 60, the lows 50. In the Willamette Valley, increasing clouds and a chance of rain. Southwest winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour, the highs in the mid-60s, the lows 45. And for the Corvallis, Albany area, cloudy tomorrow, increasing chance of rain as the day continues. Winds from the southwest 5 to 12 miles per hour, and the high 66 and the lows 46.
I was just looking at your hailstone here, Patti.
Isn't that a good hailstone?
That's a big sucker, I'm telling you.
I would hate to be hit with those.
Well, think of all the cars that got damaged from these things.
Yeah, you have to have a certain kind of insurance to be insured against hailstones that size, or any type of hailstone.
No thanks.
Well, hold on to your seats, because Run DMC and the Beastie Boys will be rapping together in a joint concert this summer. Both bands have been plagued by fan violence at their concerts in the past, but this time $500,000 will be spent at each arena on things like private guards, crowd control, and barriers and metal detectors. The Together Forever tour, which begins June 13th in Honolulu, will go on through to New York and end in August.
Well, they might have brought that upon themselves with their type of music.
Yeah, they're pretty obnoxious.
Tom, what happened in the sports over the weekend?
Well, the Beavers look pretty good going to the championships this upcoming weekend. I'll have that and more when I come back.
Our families are moving closer and closer to our forests. That's why, if you're careless with fire when you go to the forest, you could burn a lot more than trees.
Oh, good, you're home early. You didn't drink and drive, did you?
Mm-mm.
I hope you're doing all you can for the United Way, the Red Cross, and the Foster Child Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And did you stop for your health checkup? I only tell you these things so you can help yourself and others. That's why each year TV carries hundreds of millions of dollars worth of public service messages free. By the way, did you know overeating can be bad for your heart?
Ryan and Albert, or Rick and Jake, who can give me the answer to this question?
We're going to ask for the artist and the title. And here is a piece of that song.
To find out who gets this question correct, join us tonight for The Game Show.
The Oregon State Beaver baseball team might have just what it takes going into this week's championship playoffs. The Beavers were in top form this past weekend as they won 3 out of 4 division games. Friday, the Beavs swept a pair from Portland, beating the Pilots in 10 innings in the first game 5-4, and crushing the team from the north 18-0 in the nightcap. Saturday, OSU had their work cut out for them as they hosted the Huskies from the University of Washington. Oregon State won the opener 4-3, but lost their composure and took a 13-4 beating in the nightcap. Individually, Ken Bowen kept his batting average above 400 on the year and proves to be the leader going into the conference championships this week. Rafael Ramirez drove in Albert Hall in the 8th inning yesterday as the Atlanta Braves rallied to beat the New York Mets 8-7 in Atlanta. The Mets are now winless on weekends, posting their worst start since October of 1983. They are now 13-15 as of yesterday. In other National League scores, the Phillies beat the Padres. Phillies beat the Reds after a 17-minute delay caused by a bee sting suffered by Cincinnati pitcher Ted Power. Power recovered, but not in time. Elsewhere, the Expos beat Houston 6-2. Los Angeles outclubbed the Cardinals. The Padres unleashed 19 hits to embarrass the Cubs 14-2, and Pittsburgh beat the Giants 4-1. Turning to the American League, the Mariners took control of the once hot Milwaukee Brewers, handing them their 6th straight loss. The M's jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the first inning, courtesy of a Scott Bradley sacrifice fly and a Ken Phelps home run. Seattle went on to win it 5-1 as they earned their 5th straight victory in their last 6 outings. Around the rest of the American League, Cleveland snapped its 6-game losing streak, beating the Royals. The Yankees clobbered the Twins 6-1. Boston crushed California Texas slipped by the Blue Jays, and Baltimore beat Chicago 6-4. The Oregon State men's and women's track teams hosted the Ducks from the South as both Oregon teams walked away with what they expected. Nick Till was there.
Although the Oregon State athletes placed high in several events Saturday, they were still no match for the powerhouse Ducks. Guy Okerman's second-place finish in the long jump was one of several shadowed finishes OSU managed. Oregon's Julie Goodrich and Janelle Thorsland went 1-2 in both the long jump and triple jump, battling All-American Connie Paterka's first-place finish in the javelin. Oregon State All-American John Thomas took a second-place finish to Eric Finch in a battle in the hammer, while Greg Likens of Oregon State, coming back from an injury, placed third to Tim Canfield and Jay Davis, who went 1-2 in the pole vault at 16.5. The men could only score 25 points to Oregon's 138, while the women came a bit closer, scoring 51 points to Oregon's 76. The women also had first-place finishes from Kim Fenton in the high jump, Jenna Stark in both hurdles, and Kathy Strong in the sprints. The ladies also had a win in the 1,600-meter relay to round off the day's competition.
Well, the track squads will be home for the next 3 weekends, beginning with the Beaver Invitational this Saturday at Wayne Valley Field. The NBA playoffs are heating up in the East, where Boston and Detroit are getting ready to do battle. The Celtics and Pistons are both just one game away from eliminating the opposition and getting on to the Eastern Conference Championships. Boston leads the Milwaukee Bucks 3-1 after going to overtimes yesterday to come up with a 138-137 victory in Milwaukee. Kevin McHale dished in 34 points to help give the Celtics the win, but was carried off the court and into the locker room at the end of the game after suffering that ankle injury over again. Meanwhile, in Detroit, it was Isaiah Thomas who became the instant hero after bouncing off a Hawk defender and making what most pros can only dream of, an incredible shot that turned out to be the game winner. Of course, the final score there that put the Pistons up 3-1 in the series had Detroit 89 and, of course, Atlanta 88. Well, Fred Couples ended a 3-year drought on the PGA Tour yesterday when he sank a 5-footer for par on the third hole of sudden death to beat Mark Calcavecchia in the Byron Nelson Classic. After coming within 6 inches of hitting his ball out of bounds on the first playoff hole, one got the feeling that Lady Luck was in Couples' hip pocket. Couples scrambled for par on the first 2 sudden death holes and played safe when Calcavecchia knocked his approach shot over the green. Couples pocketed $108,000 in the victory, and Calcavecchia just took $64,800. Well, a sad note in sports tonight. University of Oregon's Jesse Nash drowned Sunday in an inner tube accident on the Willamette River. The 21-year-old junior out of Wilmington, Delaware, started 21 games for the U of O basketball team and was considered an inspiration to the rest of the U of O Ducks. According to Eugene Police Department reports, the inner tube Nash was on capsized, throwing Nash underwater for several minutes. According to head basketball coach Don Monson, plans have been made for a memorial service Tuesday evening at MacArthur Court. Well, if there's one thing Indianapolis Motor Speedway is going to be remembered for this year, it's the magnetizing effect the walls have on this year's field of cars. Yesterday, the Speedway claimed another victim, 1983 winner Tom Sneva. Before Sneva's accident yesterday, 11 other drivers had veered off the racing track into the wall. The most serious of the accidents occurred Saturday when Jim Crawford of Scotland suffered 2 broken ankles, a broken shin bone, and a broken knee. Fortunately, like most of the other victims, Sneva casually got out of his car, shook his head, and walked away unharmed. You know, those guys going 200 miles an hour and then wrecking their cars and getting out of the cars and just walking away just amazes me.
It's all the inexperience.
Yeah, I just can't believe it. Pretty big.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. By golly, we'll get out of here and let you get on with your evening. Whatever you're going to do, have a good one. From all of us here at News 31, good evening.
Good night.
Good night.